Welcome back everybody to another breakdown episode. Today we take a look at Ixellior, one of my recent maps made for RTX and PBR Texturepack on Bedrock in mind. We will take a look on how this map was produced, and so in general even beginners can understand the process. Then dive deeper into the node setup and take a note how the assets were created and integrated with World Painter. If this is your first time on the channel, feel welcomed and invited to take a look around and find all the time lapses, breakdowns and tutorials about maps and creations and more. If you like what you see, you will find in the descriptions links to the source files, maps, details and all the projects. With that said, drop a like and help a small creator reach new people. Thanks for watching, this is McMeddon and you're watching a World Engineering episode, Breakdown Edition. The process in world engineering is quite simple. Creating a base terrain using a world creation software, exporting it into black and white maps, importing those into World Painter, add some textures, assets and water, and export it to Minecraft. For our map we will need a few assets, mostly foliage, trees, rocks and some custom stuff that we would like to include. For Ixellior I included spruce trees, oak trees, taiga trees, frozen taiga trees, dead taiga trees, ice, diorite, andesite as well as normal rocks, village buildings, and of course the mushrooms. Creating each asset category took around 2 to 4 hours, and then catalog and save them as schematics. A good practice is to make grids that have the same size. This makes it easier to shift around your selection and copy every asset within a reasonable time. With those we can start and edit our master file, a World Painter file that holds every single asset we wish to use in future projects. Here we include all the trees, rocks, custom assets that we can combine with other layers to create biomes that we can print onto our map. With that finished and saved, we can go ahead and start working on the base terrain. You can use programs like World Machine, World Creator or Gaia for this. In my case, I use Gaia. It's a new program that is currently still in development, and when you're using it, you will find a lot of bugs and performance issues. But still I use it. Since I built my knowledge base in the last month on the work cell, I created it in Gaia, and currently sticking to it. In the future I will explore World Machine and other programs for sure. In case you wish to help me with that, you can help me via Patreon, where you can support me and my projects and get custom worlds, assets and source files in return, as well as taking part in the community votes and get future access to Patreon exclusive events. Anyway, starting out with Gaia, I mostly work continuously on 2 major files, the world generation and the exportation tabs, that evolve with every session or more. My Gaia files are at this point quite complex and hard to understand without insight, so let's break it down. In my last map breakdown I showed you the key structure how these maps are generated. We start off with the base input, generating multiple layers from it, customize the layers individually and then combine them together to finish them. From there, we erode the terrain to smooth out the transitions between the layers and start working on the integration of the river system. At the end, we integrate a height map adjust node system to control the water level around the map. The basic principle is we raise the whole terrain by 50%. With the mountains we get the max height point. We make the seabed the mid-level, and since the seabed isn't supposed to be the lowest part of the map, we add small channels somewhere on the map that generate the deepest point of the map. The differences between seabed and the canyon will result in lifting the seabed and the coastline up and down, giving us the option to control and adjust the coastline to the Minecraft water level. This process will probably be also saved in 1.17 and with the added 128 blocks. But we will see, since we need to wait till World Painter releases the next update. Take some time at this step. I export my maps multiple times and figure out if it's correctly adjusted. Gaia doesn't have absolute values and it's hard to control. This is a process where I repeatedly try out if the coastline aligns with the water level of 62, and do that until I get the wished result. The Ixellior build I thought about starting from a fresh base constructing for this map, but ended up using the recent build I did. This map saw a drastic change in the formation of the mountains, creating a really sharp and clean one. My goal was to make the peaks and the shape of the mountains really special, and test it around and minimize the erosion itself to a minimum. Removing some of the coastline mass and the base landscape nodes resulted in having a more even and all surrounding harsh cliff around the island. Not sure if I will keep this for the future, since a lot of the landscape and coastline is now identical. But on the other hand, it resulted also in fantastic landslides. Changing more and experimenting is a key process in developing maps, and of course it's the most time intensive. To figure out the right balance on these maps. Coming closer to the end of Gaia, we need a few data maps for texturing. We start off in the biome section, where we adjust a few masks according to the land formations and giving each island a specific biome. Furthermore, I went ahead and implemented the onion approach to the forests for every island. This style was developed recently for the new Arctic and taiga biomes. This gives a layered style to the forest area, where I can place smaller trees on the outside and bigger trees on the center of each forest. Apparently, we don't need every brush map that is exported for this map. Often it is that I don't use the full amount of the roundabout 40 data maps, since in the World Painter process I choose and select based on my opinion and vision for the map what will be included. Speaking of World Painter, let's see how the was developed there. World Painter is straightforward and most of you are somewhat familiar with this program, but for those that don't know it, it's a world creation program for the simple use and export of Minecraft maps, where you can adjust the land and paint terrain textures like grass, stone, etc. You get it. Before we are starting on the terrain itself, I mostly check around the map, if it is correctly exported and the world I imagine it want to be. In the previous step, we have already taken care of the water level around the coastline, but it's always good to control and check other bits of the land, and adjust it before working on the World Painter. In my process, I start off with importing all my main assets. I have set up a master file including every asset I made and biomes I intend to include into my projects. This saves me a lot of time, since I have hundreds of assets that I won't need to add again into this file. Depending on the map, I adjust or include more assets and layers to the file, and note down the changes for the master file. This is quite useful and saves a lot of time. So off we go, and start painting in with the terrain. There are a few base things that I add to every map, like grass, the gravel seabed, some dirt flows and rock layers. For this map I had 5 distinctive biomes to paint in: Arctic, mushroom, desert, crystal forest and a normal forest. For the desert and Arctic and normal forest we can use the common wall painter brushes like grass, desert and deep snow. For the more custom biomes I made a few combined layers and included some of the floors, assets and integrated biomes, brushing in, them into the areas as well as adjusting small bits and pieces. If you wish to know how to make all of this, check out the info card for my wall painter playlist where I described and showed how you can create all the layers, assets and biomes. Wall painter itself got a lot of attention in this project, revisiting and changing a lot of things around the map even after recording ended. A crucial part of course is the troubleshooting part, making sure the assets are working, errors are resolved and maps are exported in the correct converted properly. The biggest drawback I had to face with this map was the change from mushroom blocks to wool. Unfortunately in the process many mushroom assets kinda died and were wrongly converted, resulting in some ugly mushies. So to keep the feel I went with wool, to keep the biome for its proposed purpose, the glowing mushroom islands. The idea was to have like an old forest that died and now have been taken over by giant flourishing mushrooms that rise from the ashes. Turned out pretty well and it is an astonishing sight to experience. Coming to the end and placing the last biomes, assets and roads in place, we are about to finish with this breakdown and time-lapse of the world Ixellior. There's one more thing that, left to do, and that's decorating the spawn and integrating the travel system to each biome for this showcase map. Starting out with some adjustments to the area, we head off into building the balloon that will be the focus point of our journey. Creating the basket that will hold on to all the common blocks to teleport to every location and placing in the same balloon at its destination. Furthermore, I added some small bits and pieces to the village as well as adding some life in form of some villagers to the area. I normally add into the spawn village my supporters of Patreon to give them a place in the world and show them my deep appreciation for these awesome people. For this showcase I choose to give the supporters a dedicated village across the river, with a bigger village to be placed in. A key difference between these villages and other maps of mine is the sheer amount of village buildings. With you getting more and more over on Patreon, I must admit, the old village was getting a bit too small for all you to fit in. Therefore I generated multiple village buildings and placed them around the world in several locations. This enables me to place more of you into the world and have basically small cities, so to speak. And to keep it as Minecrafty as possible, I didn't fully make the areas finished. To encourage you and the people out there to go onto the map and make it a home for yourself, without me polishing every single last bit. But with that said, we are coming closer to the end. Thanks for watching, don't forget to support your small creator with a little thumbs up, and again, links are provided down in the description. And now, let's see how it all turned out. Roll the cinematic!